Hello. Attorney, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, very good.
Hi there. How are you doing?
Very good. How are you today?
Today's pretty good. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I
And
don't
just
have
so
any.
everyone's aware, oh, I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Wait, I was going to say, I don't have any idea how many people will be joining us today. Go ahead.
I was just going to state that I am running the live stream. And so, just as a reminder, I hope that something popped up when you entered, just so you are
Did.
aware. Okay, good deal.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I know it was really hard to find a date that any number of people could be together. This is just a bad time of year, but thought it was important for us to touch base and at least provide a little update on what was going on with our director's position and have a chance to at least collect any news that had happened out there in the last 6 months with the different groups as things have changed with the legislative session and just developments that our organizations have been working on, moving some things forward. So I thought it was a good opportunity to have a little bit of an update. So thank you to everyone that was able to tune in. Just want to really briefly try to share my screen and go over our guiding vision, mission, and goals. Our vision, driving a robust economy with the highest educated and skilled workforce. Our mission, to align education and workforce training to cultivate future-focused and future-ready talent using an entrepreneurial mindset. And our goals, to be the best in the Midwest and beyond in post-secondary readiness and success, preparation for high wage, high demand, high skilled, critical need occupations, and business expansion, attraction, and retention. And then, of course, just a reminder of our peer competitor states. Now it's always a challenge to figure out how I stop sharing. There's the button. So just wanted to start with what's been happening in the Department of Commerce. We were approved for our director's position. So that's exciting. So it won't be long before it's July 1. We've had some conversation, Dr. Lane and myself with Trent there at Commerce. And Trent, can you give us just a little update on what the timeline is going to look like for getting that posted and interviewed and
Yeah,
hiring?
happy to do that. Thank you, Shelley. So we have started the process of writing the job description of the position description. We have to fill it into a state form. So we're in that little part of the game right now. And then once that position description gets approved by the Secretary of Commerce, then we will send a memo and basically a request for permission to fill to the governor's office. And then they kick that back, and then that gives us permission then to advertise the job. So we're trying to get that done even yet today, so that that position will be ready to go once July 1 hits. We then could advertise and start going down that path. We'll need to have a committee, obviously, that will help with the interviews. And so I think that's a point of discussion today, who would like to participate in the interviews. And then we will just go from there. So one little hang up right now is our HR team's down a person. So that's slowing things down just a little bit, not just because of a medical leave issue. So, something we'll have to work through. And then personally, I'll be on vacation the next 2 weeks. So that also will slow things down. So it may be the second week of July before that gets posted. But
All right, thank you for the update. Trent, since you mentioned topic of discussion for today, who might want to serve on that committee? Do you want to go ahead and take some volunteers of people that are interested now, or how would you like to proceed with that?
however you'd like to proceed. If there's some that are interested in volunteering, I see one hand waving. So
Then he's waving. I would certainly be interested in that as well.
Alan has waved.
Waving as well.
Any other volunteers?
I think that would be a nice group. Oh, and Blake has joined us.
I'm not waving.
Blake is not waving. Okay, so that would be Cindy, Alan, and myself that look like we have volunteered to be available to help you, Trent.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. And like I said, we'll let you know as soon as that gets posted and we start collecting applicants.
All right, wonderful. What I really thought we just do today is I'm going to use our strategic plan as a bit of a guide and just walk down through it. And maybe ask some questions or share some things out. And of course, we have people from the different entities on here who can expand a little bit more about things. But obviously, one of our first strategies was creating the AKCC director position. And so that is in process, as you hear. Another one of our overarching plans that we'll need to tweak a little bit was just developing a robust communication and marketing plan. And it doesn't look like AKCC is, it in and of itself is going to have access to any Spark funds, anything special by our own right. But I think we do have some things going on that relate to some things in our plan, like encouraging the FAFSA completion. KBOR has launched the Apply Kansas initiative, so certainly that's getting some publicity. We even talked about that a little bit in our meeting yesterday at KBOR. Certainly, we are on record of being very interested in that becoming a graduation requirement, but that, of course, is in the hands of the State Board of Education to see if they would want to move forward with that. And talking about how we at KBOR can promote the application for the Kansas Promise scholarships and make more awareness of their availability. So those are some things that sprung to my mind that was going on in the KBOR front, related to just communicating and marketing what we're doing. Blake, you might wish to elaborate on that, and then there may be others that are doing some things that have come up in the last 6 months, if you want to update us.
Yeah, thank you. I don't have a lot to add. I think that as we move forward, I think it's going to be important for the State Board of Ed and the Board of Regents and Department of Commerce to be folding any individual marketing efforts, to be at least informing this council and seeing where there might be overlap where we could all assist. So, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I mean, we both have an interest in initiatives such as, some type of early college and defining college broadly as post-secondary or any opportunity after high school, just to really think about how we enhance our talent pipeline. So that's all I really have to say about that. I know that the community college sector has been proposing ways to connect closer to high schools and high school counselors. And I think anything we can do to bring the systems together, including business and industry, makes a lot of sense.
And I might just elaborate a little more on yesterday. KBOR awarded what did we call those star awards that we gave out for the schools that had participated in 3 Apply Kansas events last year?
I'm getting my board book out. Hang on.
But we recognized
recognized high school.
The high schools. I can't remember quite how many there were. Was it around 50?
Yeah, maybe 45. Yeah.
Anyway, high schools in the state that they'll get a banner from us, and the Apply Kansas All-Star High Schools. Thank you, Matt. I knew star was in the title. So we gave those awards out. So those schools will be getting a banner. They can post it, and anywhere we're hoping to maybe put a little something out that they can put on their social media to encourage the high schools to publicize it, hoping maybe that their neighbors next door will see what they're doing and decide that they would like to be a part of that as well. Besides getting the word out to parents in that district that it's going to be.
What was Oh, I'm sorry. What was the criteria for that, Shelley?
They
For
had to
that award?
do, they had to complete 3 separate Apply Kansas events. So the first one, which I think happens around October, and that's when they actually have kind of a like a FAFSA completion day. I know like the last event is a signing day,
Yes.
and what's the
College.
event that's in the middle that I'm missing?
I think it was college applications where they
Yeah,
held
it's the
they hold
you're
a
right. It's
college day where.
yeah, the college day, college applications day. So it's FAFSA completion, then it's the apply at the college day, and then it's the third culminating event is a signing day. So a celebration of those students that have signed at some sort of post-secondary
Right.
opportunity. Although normally they'll also, if these students have joined the military or something like that, often they're recognized as well.
Okay, thanks.
And I also saw Heather Morgan jumped on in the chat box. Heather, if you would want to unmute and talk a little bit about the Higher Path, the Kansas Promise blog that you've been working on.
I'm not in a very good place to talk, so I'll talk very fast.
All right.
Kristen did a blog last year about Kansas Promise Act. She sent it to me this week. I updated it for the changes in the law, and I think that she's going to either run it again or basically push it out on social media again. We also have a marketing plan going forward, trying to reach out. You might have seen an editorial from one of our board members this weekend in the Capital Journal that'll run in all the same papers that the Capital Journal owns this week, trying to get the word out on the Promise Act and also dispel the myth that price is a barrier for college.
Very good. And Stacy Smith jumped on and oh, this is funny. He's talking about what's on the blog, says it even has a picture of me in there. And this is just so I go look and see what kind of horrible picture somebody has found, isn't it? Stacy, you want to elaborate a little bit on that? Not the picture part, but just the planning tool for future success.
Yeah, I think Higher Paths has been a pretty good communication tool for the agency, and we are using, I'm not sure if it's our portion of ESSER dollars to support some of the work that they're doing. But they're building a lot of momentum with our business and industry partners. And so Textron, Stormont Vail, Foley, I think are all participating supporters in their 501(c) campaign, and they're looking to pull in more support over the next year to make sure that they have a sustainable initiative. If anybody would like an invitation to the next quarterly investors meeting, they have a bunch of stats about, the footprint, the outreach. I know Department of Commerce has partnered with Higher Paths. I can't remember if that was a transportation initiative or who was involved in that coordination of messaging. But she's really pretty easy to work with and likes to share information back and forth. I can loop you in, Alan, and get you a direct outreach to Kristen. And New Boston Creative is housed in Manhattan, and I'm trying to remember who the Builders Association is that's a part of their footprint. But if you look on their webpage, Alan, you can see the participating members.
That's great. And in our original action steps, we had a number of things written about trying to produce some short video clips or something highlighting some of the IT skills and careers. Does anybody have a path forward on that right now? Any progress been made there?
Yeah, there are cool career videos that are associated with the Higher Paths, and several different priorities have gone out there. One of them is related to cybersecurity.
Shelley, it might be a great idea to invite Kristen back to give us an update. You know, she
That's
was
just what I was
been helping
thinking.
us. Yeah, that'd be good.
I agree. I talked to Kristen earlier this week about connecting her with more Kansas businesses, and she has some really good metrics on reaching. It's going to take, there's going to be a lag how do you measure the effectiveness of the marketing campaign to actual job placement? Because you're talking about marketing to high school, parents of high school students. However, she had some really good stuff. And she was actually asking me about this committee. It said, hey, well, we're meeting later this week. We're kind of been delayed, but I think, yeah, getting her on the next meeting would be great. They're still doing a lot. And she has the videos they have are really good. They're really well done.
So maybe our next step with this is get her in here and then really begin, because it's also making me, reminding me that it's like, I intended to follow what they were doing more closely, and I haven't looked at it for quite a while, and maybe get intentional about how can we push that out, particularly through KSDE, because there's a channel. If we can get it into the hands of superintendents and principals, we can push that out then and get it into the hands of parents. So we really could be doing a lot to build awareness there.
She's got a pretty good idea of a footprint, and we overlap into Missouri quite a bit. I mean, the amount of traffic that they picked up in Missouri was pretty amazing, but we've got people from all over the country that are tapping into it. And she's definitely planning for fall. I mean, some of the things that she has up or on, you know, that kind of a timeline, 4 months, 5 months out. And so if you want information for FAFSA to really resonate, you know, that's kind of an October issue when school counselors are talking to kids about it. And that's a good time. You know, that's when Manhattan Tech comes into Wamego, and they have some of their staff from the community college come over to the high school, and they sit down with parents and they complete the FAFSA together.
Right.
So yeah, thinking about your FAFSA efforts and priorities and getting that.
Yeah, tie
So
those
you've got the
together.
videos ready to go before it's time to launch.
Perfect. So yes, I think we need to get that connection made with her sooner rather than later. All right, perfect. Stacy, while you're on, do you want to update us with any work that you've been doing there at KSDE within the IT cluster? I know that there was a review of that that was scheduled to take place, I think in the spring.
As far as the review of the career clusters, I mean, we've gone in and updated some of the competencies around that. To get into the weeds, you know, I think it went relatively well. As a part of what we saw, we did put out a reserve grant for school districts to apply for that was intended to build their capacity around the introductory coursework that's offered through Project Lead the Way. And so we were able to get some non-metro and some non-urban schools, at least an introduction to the gateway coursework. So that's pretty fine grained and in the weeds. Yeah, I think it went relatively well, and we'll be finalizing those at our June review meeting.
Oh, great. So made that progress there that we've been talking about. Have we done any more work on then, or is that still to come on like trying to get some industry vetting of those IT industry recognized credentials?
Opportunity Kansas has not, but I've been wondering if Dr. Flanders, if we could get Scott Smathers involved and have the TEA be engaged with that with us. I know they just put out their revised credentialing list, but this might be a good thing to get on an agenda to talk with them about. And then Alan, I don't know if there's any business connection that we could use CompTIA and some of the other kinds of already designated to do that review, but what are your thoughts?
I think CompTIA, and I'll just say, there's been plenty of things that I just have not thought about or done, probably like all of us with the delay and legislative session, whatever, and we all have other jobs. But I think CompTIA probably, and it seems like there's some others that have more knowledge of, like Trent, about what CompTIA has in the data, but I would think that would at least be a request to them. Unfortunately, we do chamber member surveys, but I'll just remind you that our chamber membership is a small percentage of the Kansas businesses, but IT is important for all of them, whether you're a retailer or large manufacturer, small manufacturer, doesn't matter. So hopefully, I'm looking at the chat, and Heather's got some info. So anyway, I think CompTIA may be the best avenue to get a little bit more granular detail. At least that, I mean, Trent, you've interacted probably with them more than we have. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we just need to reconnect with them and tell them what we're looking for, and I think they'll be glad to provide the data.
I would suggest that, I mean, this is an incredibly disorganized space. Everybody's got their own certificate or credential that they have created. If there's any way that, there's that group in Kansas City, works with IT.
KC Tech Council.
Yeah, I mean, if there's, I'm thinking of one place we could go is Cindy, who's the guy that works for Cliff Illig,
David Franklin.
David Franklin.
Yeah.
Well, David Franklin and Troy Carlson.
We need to just get David and Troy to go through and say, what are businesses using and what's going to make a difference in somebody's pay if they get the certificate, because a student will think they got the certificate, they will have earned the certificate and it won't be an advanced enough one, or it won't be the right one, and it won't be of value in the marketplace. So I think I would just, get David Franklin. That's where I'd go.
Well, I will reach out to David and so Shelley, you can put me down to initiate that conversation with
I
David.
am making it a. Thank you.
Heather may have some
Yeah.
thoughts about that too, in terms of what the community colleges are using as a filter.
Heather, any comments?
I've got,
I just put in the chat, when we've been meeting with industry council, we've also been meeting with our 4-year partners. What Blake said is spot on. Every single person seems to want a little bit slightly different thing, but the one cross-cutting thing that's been said is, don't assume that a certificate means anything, because you have to get either a number of certificates or to that advanced degree for it to be of any value. And then the other thing is what Blake was talking about, the pay. The other thing is to get hired. We can't say get the certificate and you're going to get hired, because if the certificate is not of value, quite frankly, it's not going to make a difference in the hiring decision. So we just have to be really careful with how we talk with students about this, because business and industry, each one seems to be a little bit separate, especially in like data analytics, cybersecurity space. There are a lot of certificates that are not going to lead to hiring or better pay.
So is it really a portfolio development issue then, that we're helping kids build portfolios of skills?
Yes, it is.
I will tell you that Scott Smathers did a lot of research in this area, and so many employers were still using the baccalaureate degree as a proxy for hiring. So they wanted a baccalaureate plus certificates, I was actually kind of surprised at that. And now the labor market is getting even more competitive, so that may be changing. But he just said it was almost for those better wage jobs in this space, they were still using a baccalaureate degree.
Okay, thank you. Stacy, you had your raise hand feature up and then you took it down. Did you have something you wanted to say, or?
Yeah, in the area of credentials in general, we could probably tie this in with the pilot around the Washburn University students and the supporting high schools and what they'll be doing around the standard certificate or credentials versus the Excellent CTE credentials. And maybe that's something we run down in a little bit more detail later, but there is concern about offering too low a credential. And then, you know, what is really achievable by a student, the CompTIA, the C++ certifications. I would say that our IT department has learned an awful lot on the basis of bringing in our youth registered apprenticeship. And so bringing in somebody who hasn't had a chance to earn the certificates or the credentials before, but then they help develop expertise that arrives at that credential. So thinking about work-based learning and the internship approach, or even job shadows, that helping the student understand the relevance of the skill within a context and developing all of those attributes at the same time is a pretty powerful model. I mean, it works in the healthcare industry. It seems like it ought to be something that could work in the IT industry if employers can get their head around investing in the people that they're recruiting into their own pipeline. So in addition to identifying the credentials that they're going to exit programs with, I think industry has a role in developing the capability of those students in achieving those credentials. And then it's almost mapping a little bit earlier what the academic and technical attributes are for the students that need access to those slots. I mean, how do you know when it's safe to get a student into an internship, that they've demonstrated they're academically ready and they're mature enough to be able to do that? And I know Casey STEM has got a little bit of a footprint in some of those early experiences, as well as the CAPS network in identifying which students can be in those work-based learning. And then you pair that up with a community college, early college experience where they can strive towards that low-level certificate and understand the pathway that they're stepping into. I feel like I just went on for a long time right there. That was a lot of, yeah. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you for that, Stacy. And Anne, also at one point you were waving at me. Did you have a comment?
I had a question mostly. I know Nick Poles pulled together, the CompuCon conference last year to try to encourage schools to do more IT training, that kind of thing. But I understand his position's been eliminated. I wonder if anybody knows, is anybody else picking up that space?
Flagship Kansas.Tech down in Wichita has picked up a lot of those efforts. And so that would be another group we could work with beside the
I'm
case.
sorry, who was that?
Flagship Kansas.Tech.
Is Kansas spelled out?
Yes.
Thank you.
I mean, in terms of working with high schools or,
Yes.
okay, thanks.
Thank you. Another thing that we had in our strategic plan was just work-based learning and the WBL intermediaries. Stacy, would you be able to give us any kind of an update on what's happened in those areas the last 6 months?
Finished up another year of professional development with our schools. We're anxious to hear what the plan is for the work-based learning intermediaries that have been funded, and how we're going to be able to interact with them. And they're, funded through the Department of Commerce into the workforce development boards. And so, what those groups see as the achievable goals. I think there's been some planning that I haven't necessarily been privy to, but it could be they're waiting for the full thing to come online as well.
And who would be the proper person now who can give us an update on that? And do you happen to know what was the amount of funding, and how is that translating into the number of work-based learning intermediaries that will be out there across the state?
If I
Was,
can jump in, Shelley, and
Yes.
Trent, you can validate 741,000 for the intermediaries. And is it with Mike Bean still, Trent?
yeah, so we have an office of registered apprenticeship,
Okay, so
and
Mike's
that-
still in charge of that.
and Mike's still in charge of that one. Shonda Atwater is actually the director of the Office of Apprenticeship, Registered Apprenticeship. And they got, 714,000 for the work-based learning. And then also there was a $500,000 to expand registered apprenticeship programs. That was to incentivize employers as well as do some cluster development. And then this is on top of the $5 million grant that they got last fall to
Right.
develop the intermediary. So if you look at that total, we're over $6 million, $6.5 million towards work-based learning, specifically registered apprenticeships that was not in place a year ago. And she's also grown the team now so that there is an IT focused person on the registered apprenticeship staff, as well as some other industry specific positions. And then we also just appointed some new members to the Kansas Apprenticeship Council because that had not been, I'd just say, well maintained over the years. So we're back up to a full council. So I think there's a lot of really great momentum in the registered apprenticeship space and the work-based learning.
Well, is that a significant shift in our definition of work-based learning and how we're going to pursue that objective? Because I heard a lot of registered apprenticeship resources, but I didn't hear a lot about job shadowing or early career experiences. And so is that footprint going to be shrunk from our original continuum of work-based learning?
What I was providing was what's going on in the Department of Commerce. That does not reflect what our objectives are in this committee. And I think you
Stacy,
call
I
out-
don't know. We probably, another person to add to the next call is Natalie from Work-Based Learning, the pilot projects. And Stacy, you might have some info. I realize KSDE is not a teeny tiny little agency that you don't always know what everybody is doing. But obviously, sometime in the last year, they were making a lot of progress, and there were some questions or concerns about how expandable it is, but probably get Natalie online and get an update. But unless Stacy, some of the things we don't know.
Well, it's, I would pull up the Wichita area, for example, what they've done with the YEP project in the summer and dedicated boot camps. Part of the vision might have been if Wichita can scale to 600 dedicated boot camp type experiences for internship opportunities that lead to potential employment with Textron or Spirit, is that scalable in Southwest Kansas, Southeast Kansas? If we could have each of the 5 workforce regions with a dedicated boot camp that has internship, then we have an access and equity opportunity. And so that's able to be accomplished between a partnership between Wichita Public Schools and the surrounding school districts and the work-based learning intermediary from, in Allen's shop.
Yeah, let me suggest, Shelley, that your committee maybe pull all the work-based learning intermediaries together so we
Done.
can make sure that we all are thinking about work-based learning the same. Because Stacy, to your point, I think about career-connected learning, and that starts at elementary, and it is a whole lot of, it's awareness, it's exploration, it's developing the IPS, it's all of that. We sometimes shorthand it into internships and apprenticeships, and those are critical, but all kids will be touched by the other things. So I think it might be good, Shelley, for your subgroup, maybe we wait till we have the new director on board.
Right. I think waiting until the new director is on makes sense. But yeah, I'm making a note here
Yeah.
that
I had a resource
we need to
question
get
for
them
Trent
together, work through that.
related to this work-based learning. I was like Stacy, I would have asked the exact same question Stacy just did. I thought that some of that resource was going towards what KSDE would call work-based learning and what Cindy would call work-based learning. That early learning that might get them into a Senate Bill 155 class or something, not registered apprenticeship. Trent, is there something been lost in translation between the legislative session and now?
Here, I'll read you what was written up in the budget. So that this is what was used in the budget document. And so this is what was funded with that 714. Work-based learning, enhancement in support of work-based learning intermediaries, commerce, blah, 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 work intermediaries to scale high-quality work-based learning to each school district in all 5 local workforce development regions. The 2019-2020 Governor's Council on Education recommends that work-based learning in Kansas should be implemented as a comprehensive policy approach that ensures Kansas students have equitable access to high-quality work-based learning experiences designed to prepare each student for post-secondary and workforce success in high-wage, high-demand, and critical need occupations in our state and regions. Blah, blah, blah. We're currently doing a cross-agency work-based learning regional pilot that will serve as a model to scale to high-quality work-based learning across Kansas. So it says intermediaries act as a liaison between employers and school districts to facilitate internships, apprenticeships, and career shadowing opportunities. So it is broader than just registered apprenticeships. And I'm sorry if I misrepresented that, but it's being handled out of our work-based learning office, which runs our registered apprenticeship programs. So
That
good
helps. Thanks,
questions.
Trent.
Yeah. There's going to be, I'm sure, plenty of intersections to begin planning the work and scaling the work-based learning. So yeah, we'll look forward to that.
Thank you. Anything else in the realm of work-based learning or apprenticeships? That's kind of a theme we have going here that touches on quite a few things that were in our strategic plan.
Yeah, I'll just throw out there too, and the budget enhancements was $2 million for the Kansas Industrial Training and Kansas Industrial Retraining Program. And that's part of our incentive packages that we put with companies. But when you think, and we talk about, students coming through the system, but we also have that retraining aspect of our existing workforce. And so having these additional dollars will help with those programs.
Does that relate like to the workforce aid, or is that something a little different?
They can be together those dollars can leverage each other.
Okay. Thank you.
Sounds like we had a really stellar budget year. Yeah, with
We
some of the
did.
things we wanted to see done. That's great.
Okay. One of the other things, switching gears a little bit, just to get an update on that I haven't heard anything, would be we had talked about under our strategy of promoting and increasing college readiness, and driving an increase in industry recognized credentials. We have promoting work keys with businesses, promoting the JAG-K program. Has Commerce or the Chamber done anything more with that?
Well, for JAG-K, they got, and I should have been better prepared, but I think some pretty good line items in the budget. So in some ways, and then they're have a pretty significant effort on private fundraising, which is good. Then you get the private sector or foundations or whatever, some buy-in. So they were able to significantly increase the number of school districts they can get into. And I think the costs are relatively modest to get into a school district, but they're not zero. They're not $10,000. So they're certain. I know for the next meeting, or I can do email, get more specifics about that. And as many of you know, I serve on the JAG-K board. And I guess I'll put to this, because now we're talking about JAG-K. One of the interesting things about JAG-K, so the specialists that are hired within each school district are employees of JAG-K, not the school district. So they don't get availability to or access to capers. So you do have some compensation issues. And I don't know what the fiscal note would be, But this is clearly, to me, and other KBOE folks, it seems like this should and could be something KBOE or the school district should take on. But just something for us to consider, that is a recruitment challenge. But the way they're able to recruit is it's a very rewarding thing. So they can kind of, I believe the pay is competitive, but lack of capers is a challenge. So it's not anything we've talked about as a JAG-K board, but nothing to get, run to the legislature, et cetera. So the governor, to her credit, in the legislature, they did increase some line item funding. And I honestly cannot recall if it's SGF or TANF money, which is federal, or some combination thereof. But it was welcome. It was millions. And I'll get some more details about that. As far as ACT work keys, I made some requests to Sparks and CARES, and Ann and I were talking about this earlier. I've kind of lost track of what they're doing, what they're not doing. That's not necessarily a good thing on my part, but they've approved several dollars, and maybe there's somebody else on this call that has more info. Maybe Zach, you do, about what dollars are left or what has been approved. But I can't say there's been intentionally lack of transparency. It's just like there's so much else going on that things don't always get reported. So that's but I think both of those should remain on this overall committee's list to support both of those.
Okay. Make a note of that. And it would be good, Alan, I think if you could get us an update on JAG-K and just what that line item funding is going to mean in terms of what new schools are going to be able to be served, and specifically which high schools will be able to be served.
Yeah, and I'll get an update and all that, and I will pledge to this group every quarterly meeting I will have a JAG-K update on. They have some really good metrics about graduation, and some of it's anecdotal things about national contests they're winning, but the number of school districts and kids that are enrolling, it's really encouraging, and it's just a great program. So I will get more detail before the next meeting, but have it ready for each quarterly meeting just to have an update, because Chuck Knapp, who's their president, will be able to get that to me, updated info fairly easily.
All right, thank you. Then I'm looking at some of our other things coming that have to do with trying to do some realigning of Perkins funding related with IT, and I don't know if we've made any progress or attempt with that. A lot of that's listed under like KBOR and commerce. So is there anything related to that or anything else under the Opportunity Kansas areas to report out on?
Regent Kiblinger, I don't know if anything's been done to realign that Perkins funding with our in-demand programs. Having said that, that is something that we can do right here in this committee with the state board, because all we need to do is amend the state plan. So that's something that we don't have to go out to people can comment on that, but we can actually do that very quickly. So I would encourage you to think about putting a small group together to bring us something back the next meeting. And perhaps if you want to think about giving them a charge to do something better and different with those funds, and to get those aligned to really our high demand preferred industries. And again, the good part about that is we can do that right now.
Okay. Yeah, that definitely sounds like something that we could and should be moving forward, that we haven't, probably just because we've had our plates full with a few other things at our office that we've been making progress on. But I made a note of that, so I can talk with you a little bit more, Blake, to see who we want to pull together in that group. Anything else out of Opportunity Kansas that has been a noteworthy development in the last 6 months that you would like to share out?
This is just kind of ancillary to a lot of the stuff, but if you look at some of the Spark grants, specifically base grants, there was 2 of them that went towards cybersecurity, and one of them specifically with the Enterprise Kansas City group that involves a lot of workforce development, as well as the development of a cyber range. And the cyber range would be a training tool for all of education as well as industry. And so those would be additional assets that would focus on the area that we've chosen, which is IT and cybersecurity.
Trent, is Enterprise KC going to take the lead on that, or what does
Yes,
that look like?
they are the ones that received the grant.
Great.
Okay. Perfect. Well, I've made note of several things to put down as next steps as we try to move forward. We've got a pretty good idea what steps are required as we get the director hired. We've definitely got our volunteers to help serve on that interview committee with Trent, so appreciate that. And I think we've got some good next steps of people to get lined up for our next meetings. I did want to talk about maybe going ahead and trying to set our quarterly meeting dates to come. We had, of course, talked about scaling back our number of meetings now, as I think all had kind of been meeting to death the first 6 months of our existence, and hopefully now, especially with the director, we'll be to the point that quarterly meetings will work well. Anybody have ideas on dates? If we start doing like every,
I just think you got to set them, and I know all of us are on a whole bunch of different groups that either you can make it or not, and there's really no, I mean, you could do the doodle poll, I suppose, but I'm open to what everybody else thinks. But I think we just set the date. Like I'm on certain committees, like it's the 3rd Friday, but of every month, but sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't.
and that's kind of what I think originally we were we kind of doing, like was it the 3rd Monday that we had been doing originally?
Well, originally it was like the 2nd Monday right before the state board meeting. Yeah.
And what I'd say, I don't know that it, well, okay, that may matter if it's timely with cable or KSDE, but I think someone put in chat, Blake did, just set the dates, and we just let's pledge everything we can do, unless it's a super duper priority for whoever's paying our salary, that
just try to be there,
make it, or have a substitute. One quick thing. I know Kent Eccles has been on a lot of these calls. Kent was a contractor for the chamber. He took a full-time job with Trans-Canada Pipeline. And so Eric Stafford, who's our senior lobbyist, will be, and we're trying to decide whether we add another contractor or whatever. But anyway, you'll see Eric on some of these things. And he's been involved in a lot of workforce stuff, but it's more on the HR side, which is different than training. So just FYI, I think whoever, if we can't be on there, let's have a substitute. That's
okay, sounds good. Trent, I'm thinking we should have a meeting relatively soon after we get our director hired. My thought would be we kind of use whatever target you think that hiring could take place as our first quarterly meeting, and then I can go every 3 months after that. Do you have any idea of a date that we might use for the starting point?
Not at this point.
Okay.
just because obviously it's a very competitive environment right now. And so I would be interested to see what applicants we get and the
We get.
process we can go through to, and I just don't know if someone has to give notice, so I don't know a timeline there.
Okay. Well, I think tentatively, I'll just think second Monday around 1 o'clock being our meeting time. But as far as what month we'll actually start, we'll just play that by ear. And when we have a little better idea, then I'll put those dates out.
I think that's good.
All right. Sounds like a plan. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. Is there anything else that anybody would like to mention, bring before our group before we adjourn?
I have two quick things. One is
Yes, sir.
I need to re-engage the local chambers where the chairwoman from Andover has retired, and Bonnie Lowe is now, she's the president and CEO of the Lawrence Chamber. I just need to get them engaged. And then, gosh, there was somebody else I wanted to get engaged, and it's already went in and out of my mind. It's Friday afternoon and I'm already in boat mode, I guess. So, but yeah, I'll get Bonnie engaged.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on a Friday afternoon. So
Thank you, Shelley.
so
Appreciate
have a
it.
good weekend.
Yeah.
Take care, everyone.